Okay, so today's topic is biggest on auctions. So let's just clarify what we mean by auctions because there are two types of auctions. So you have the judicial auction. So this is where the owner is going to lose their property at the courthouse. And this is where investors come into the room at the courthouse and they start bidding for the property. So they have a starting bid and then they start bidding and they have to pay cash within 24 hours. Okay, and then the winning bidder is going to get a sales deed, which is the least protective type of deed, within 30 to 45 days. But again, this is extremely risky because you have to do a lot of due diligence on the property because you're going to be responsible for all the liens and encumbrances on the property. So you're buying the property as is, oftentimes sight unseen. Therefore, you have to pull title on the property prior to going to the judicial auction. The problem is that there are many groups, very powerful groups, just a couple of them. The top 3-4 groups, they dominate the judicial auctions, okay? So they know what they're gonna buy ahead of time, they pull title, they know the numbers really well. So it's very difficult to compete against them. The only weapon that you have is to sort of overpay for the property. So again, it's too risky. If you don't, if you haven't done it, it's not the place to start because you can lose all your cash, you can lose your shirt in one transaction that will put you out of business. So my recommendation is not to do auctions at the courthouse, okay? So now, what's the second type of auction? Okay, so you have the judicial auction, they also call it sheriff sale or trustees auction. It has different names, but it's all the same thing. It's in person. The second type of auction is done online. So you have the online bidding platforms, such as Auction.com, Hubzu, just to mention some of the top two auctioning platforms. And they sell primarily bank-owned properties, REOs. So these properties have been taken over by the bank through the foreclosure process, and the bank is not in the business of real estate, so they're in the business of lending. Therefore, they're going to dispose of the properties bulk. So all they want is to recoup their money, the outstanding balance from the owner, and legal fees, carrying costs, and so forth. Okay. Now, with online auctions, you have to be very careful because there are some sites, for instance, Auction.com, that they have what's called the proxy bidding, where the employees of the auctioning site are bidding against you. Okay. So when you log on to the sites, you have to register, and then if you're going to start bidding on a property, they're going to put a hold on your credit card for $2,500. So I'm going to log on to auction.com. Okay. And again, even before you start looking for properties, so for instance, I'm going to type in Allsip, Illinois, and let's find what properties there are within a certain mile, 25-mile radius. Okay, so I'm going to click on this property foreclosure. Okay, so something that I want to share with you, let me share my screen. I just logged on to auction.com, and when I put in Allsip for the search, it came the result search right here. But look at this. Something that is very confusing if you're going to be using auction.com is that they also promote in-person auctions. Those are the judicial auctions that we just talked about. An auction is the only website that does that. Okay, so they send traffic to the judicial auction. So it's not an online auction, it's in person. Okay, so that's something for you to understand because this is where you don't want to show up, right? Because it's like a Shark Tank. So that's the first property that I was telling you about that is in person, that you have to pay cash. And as you can see, all of these, I mean, the first one, the second one is in person. This, the third one, it's not online. So these are the ones that you want to focus on. You see, it says banked on, online. Okay, that's the biggest difference. The next one, banked on, online. But what I'm looking for is the auction date, it says to be determined. So they're not scheduled yet. The only ones that they're pushing are the in-person. So let me look for another town. Wheaton, Illinois. Okay. So let's see, again, in-person, 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 in-person. Whoa, a lot of in-person. All of these are in-person. Okay, there's one online. Here we go, West Chicago. So this is what I wanted to show you. So when you come to the property, I mean, in this particular, to the details page, you're going to see they give you sort of like an ARV right here, 274. And then they tell you when the auction is going to start. So the bidding ends in 17 hours and 56 minutes. So in about a day's time. Okay, today is the 21st, duration. Okay, so this is, and then the current bid is $92,000. So the question is, for instance, you come across this property, West Chicago, it's a good neighborhood, right? How much can you offer? Okay, and this is the key. Right now, the auction is at, the current bid is at $92,500, and you still have 17 hours, 55 minutes remaining. So my advice is that number one thing that you need to do, you need to understand West Chicago. What's West Chicago all about? So location, location, location. So what I typically do, I'm gonna show you like in a few minutes the process. So I log on to ChicagoDealVault, and if I don't know all the markets, I just log on to DealVault to get familiar with the market. So that's the step number one that you need to take. Understand the marketplace, West Chicago. Will West Chicago support your exit strategy? So I'm going to go to area reports and then click on West Chicago. So I'm interested in doing buy and hold. Okay, so West Chicago, DuPage County, cash flow. And it's a B market, okay, and it supports rentals. And then it says the median rental income for a 3-bedroom is about $1,600. Okay, so rents are high. That is why this is a cash flow neighborhood. So I'm gonna open up the report because I want to check if flips are feasible in this neighborhood. I'm gonna check for the months of housing supply, which tells you if this is a flipping market. But as a tip of advice, when you open up the report, I look at the livability score. Anything over 70, it's good. It's a B plus. Getting closer to the 80 livability score is A minus. So this is a B plus neighborhood. So it's a great neighborhood. That means that you have great schools, great infrastructure, low crime, good employment sources. Everything is pretty much very desirable. And then the second thing that I want to check is I'm going to go down to the sales market analysis and look at the population growth, 16%. So it's very good. People are moving into the area. I want to check the months of housing supply for a single family home, which is detached. I'm going to look months of housing supply, and it's telling me that it's 2.4. That is awesome. So this also qualifies for a top flipping market. So what it means is that if you put a property for sale as a flip, it's going to sell in less than 2.5 months. Okay, so anything that sells in less than 2.5 months, it's a great flipping market, especially right now with the shortage of inventory. Properties are going to fly in West Chicago. So this qualifies perfectly for a flip or for a rental. So now let's go back to auction.com. At this point, I know that West Chicago, it's a great neighborhood for flips and rentals. Rents are strong. This is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. We're going to be collecting $1,600 at least for rent. Okay. So now let me scroll down to something that is really, really important. Okay. Occupancy. It says occupied. Okay. And then right here, title and liens. Most liens are removed after the foreclosure property sale, but certain liens may remain. Okay, so you don't have to worry about liens when you buy properties from the bank because, as they say, you're going to get a special warranty deed, okay, from Auction.com. That means that they're going to be free and clear of any liens and encumbrances. But the only issue that I see here is occupancy. Even though it says occupied, oftentimes this is inaccurate. So you physically have to go to the property and check if it's occupied. Okay, best resources, neighbors. Okay, you want to talk to the neighbors, find out if somebody's living there. Obviously, if you see the grass pretty tall, if you see signs of vacancy, right? That's what you're looking for. Also, if you see signs of occupancy, right, like a vehicle parked outside, if you see blinds, then that's a sign that the property is occupied. And that is a problem, okay? If the property is occupied, then you won't take possession of the property anytime soon because guess what? This is already banked on property, okay? The bank is gonna get rid of the property, but it's as is occupied. So guess what? How are you going to pay for the property? If you're going to use a hard money lender, guess what? They're going to require an appraisal. So they need somebody physically go inside the property to do an appraisal. And if the owner, which oftentimes and most likely is not going to cooperate, you're not closing on the property. If you're going to use a private money lender, it could be extremely risky because even if they give you the money, guess what? You may not take possession of the property anytime soon due to the eviction moratorium, which, by the way, may end sometime in September. So in the meantime, you have 2, 3, 4 months that you're not taking possession of the property. So guess what? You're incurring carrying cost, insurance, taxes, cost of money, borrower to buy the property. So it's a big no-no to buy occupied properties. So that's tip number one. Tip number two, you never want to place a bid on the property when there's still like 17 hours remaining, okay? Because you're just increasing the bid amount for nothing. You typically wait till the last minute, okay, to start increasing the bid. In fact, the way I do it is I just wait in the last 5 seconds. So let's assume that I place a bid and I outbid the 92,500 with, let's say, 95,000. Then Auction.com is going to give everyone 3 more minutes. Okay, so that gives them time to outbid you. Okay, because that's in their best interest. And oftentimes, what I mentioned earlier, proxy bidders. Okay, so these are employees from Auction.com. They're going to be bidding against you. So you're thinking you're bidding against other investors. That's not true. You're bidding against Auction.com. Okay, they just want to maximize their bidding. Something that oftentimes they do not tell you is what the reserve is for this property. Okay, so the reserve means how much will the bank sell this property for. Okay, that is super, super important. Okay, because they tell you the estimated value is 272. But you don't know how much they're going to sell this property for, okay? The bottom line for the bank, meaning the reserve. So let me try to do a search on this property and see if anything comes up from the foreclosure archives. So what I'm interested in knowing is what the outstanding balance was by the owner before the property got foreclosed on, okay? Because that's going to be an indication that it's going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of what the outstanding balance was for the property. Okay, so I'm not getting any information from the foreclosure archives on this property. Okay, so we do not know what the reserve is going to be. So that's one of the challenges, right? Because once the reserve is met, let's assume the reserve might be 150,000 for this property. So once it hits 150,000, boom, the reserve is met. And what it means is that if you were to bid 152,000 and you're the last bidder, then you're going to win the auction, okay? Because the reserve has been met. Oftentimes, the reserve is too high that it doesn't make sense. For instance, if the reserve is 200,000, it just doesn't make sense, right? To pay 200,000 for a property that might be worth 272 because then you don't have enough meat in the bone. So it's super, super important that you understand the numbers, okay, that you won't overpay for the property, okay? Even if you're getting the adrenaline by bidding on the site, don't get carried away, okay? Always understand your numbers. How do you do that, right? So you look at the square footage of the property, and then this is what we're gonna do. We take the ARV, 272, we're gonna multiply these. This is just a rule of thumb, okay? For you to understand the most you should pay for these properties. So it's 272. We're gonna multiply these times 70% with the assumption we're gonna flip the property minus the rehab. Now the rehab for a 1,500 square feet property is going to be, we're gonna multiply the square footage times $30, okay? Just to have some leeway, assuming that you're gonna need to update kitchen, bathroom, flooring, light fixtures, make some light repairs for electric, plumbing, perhaps windows, roof. So the rehab on this property is gonna be somewhere between 45 to 55,000, okay? So minus, I'm gonna say 48,000, which means the most you should pay for these properties should be somewhere in the 140. That's it. You shouldn't pay more than 140,000 for this property with the assumption the property is vacant. If it's occupied, it's way too risky. It's not a good deal. Okay, so 140,000 should be your max allowable offer on this particular property. Okay. But again, it's too early to start bidding. So the way you do this is, if we were interested in West Chicago, which is a great neighborhood, then we need to drive physically, find that occupancy, and if it's vacant, then we register for the auction. So I'm gonna go here, and then I'm gonna log in, and then I'm registered. Okay, boom. The property has been saved. Your ID couldn't be verified. No ID was uploaded in the verification attempt. Okay, so it's asking me to upload my identity, my ID. Okay, so I think that's one of the requirements. I need to do that. So I'm gonna go back. Okay, so when you register, I think this is a new requirement. You need to provide an updated form of ID. Okay, but once you register, and then start bidding, they're gonna put a hold on your credit card. It's not a charge, it's just a hold, okay, for 2,500, okay? So here, right, as you can see, the bid increments are in 10,000s. So if I want to place a bid, it's gonna go all the way to 102,500. Again, I think this property, people are gonna overpay for this property. So it's gonna go way over 140,000, okay? I can guarantee that. But it may not make any sense, right? For you to overpay for the property, you need to stick to your numbers. And then as you can see here, reserve not met. So when the reserve is met, they're gonna change the message, and then you're gonna say, you're gonna read reserve met. But it doesn't matter, even if the reserve is met, people might still be outbidding each other, okay? So that is the drawback of the auctions, right? That you are bidding against other investors who may not understand the numbers. And that's a big problem, right? Because if you're bidding against somebody who does not understand the numbers, they're gonna overpay for the property. So you're gonna get outbid every single time, okay? So now, something that we have that is extremely powerful, but before I show you that, check this out. It says buyer's premium 5% or 2,500, whatever is greater. So the winner will be charged a fee for this property, 5% of winning bid. Okay, a minimum of 2,500. So let's assume that the winning bid is 150,000. They're going to charge 5%. So that's about 7,000. That's the buyer's premium. So you're going to need to pay, on top of the winning bid of 142, let's assume, you're going to need to pay about 7,000 more, or 5% of that. And that's the commission that Auction.com makes, okay? And then cash only, yes, okay? So that means that they're not allowing any sort of mortgage or contingency on this property. So you have to pay cash for this property. And again, the reason why is because it's occupied. So you have to pay outright cash and then deal with the tenant. But again, the odds are against you on this property because the starting bid, it's kind of high, 92,000, increments of 10,000, and you still have 17 hours remaining. So this is going to go way over the 142, which we came up with as the max allowable offer, okay? So that's just an example of how you need to think when approaching auctions, online auctions. But this is the cool thing. In Chicago DealVault, we get access to all these inventory that is going to the that is going to the online auctions. It's already banked on property. And guess what? The cool thing is that we know what the reserve is. So that we pay reserve price, we never engage in a bidding war. All we need to do is due diligence, the same way that you would do on this property, check it physically for occupancy, make sure that the area supports your exit strategy, and if everything makes sense and it's vacant, then we can put it from the back door and pay the reserve price plus a fee, just like the buyer's premium, to get the property directly from the bank. I mean, it's that simple. It's extremely powerful. So in Chicago DealVault, we have this shadow inventory target. In fact, today we got like 21 properties. So this is what we mean by that. Let me see if there's a neighborhood that is, let me see, that is a good neighborhood. And then we can check that out. Chicago, Peoria, no, nothing that, perhaps this one in Flossmoor, yeah, but the target is way too high. So the target is the reserve price from the bank, okay? So this is what the bank is going to sell the property for. So this is insider's information. So we know what the reserve is for every single property, which is huge because when you go to the online auctions, you have no clue what the reserve is. So guess what? The reserve on this property could be 200,000. So if I know upfront that the reserve is 200,000 and my max allowable offer is 142, it doesn't even make sense to register. It doesn't even make sense for me to waste time on this because the bank is asking for way too much. The numbers won't make any sense. So that is why when we approach a banked on property that we can buy directly from the bank, we look at the reserve price, okay? We know what the reserve price, and if the reserve price makes sense, meaning what we're looking for is a spread of 80 to 100,000 from the reserve price to the ARV. So in order for us to buy this property, do the math. So let's assume the ARV is 272. We need a spread of about 100,000, 80 to 100,000 on the property, and the rehab should be less than 50,000. So take off 100,000 on these. So the most we should pay is somewhere in the 170,000, and the rehab should be less than 50,000. So 170 would be like the max, okay? Assuming the ARV is 272. But again, the key is occupancy. That's going to be the critical step in this situation. And when we buy it through our connection through this shadow inventory, guess what? You can finance the transaction. Even though auction.com says cash only, guess what? We can use a Harmony lender to buy the property, so we don't have to pay cash. So we've done that several times already, where we don't have to pay cash for the property, and then we just pay the reserve price plus buyer's premium, okay? So the key is to find the property that has that spread between the target or the reserve price and the ARV. So you need $80,000 to $100,000 spread. So it's extremely powerful. Right now, the inventory is super low. As you can see, we got today 21 properties. It's very, very few. Typically, once things reopen, before the pandemic, we were seeing about 1,000 every single week. So the inventory was super high. And that's going to happen not this year, when things, even if they reopen back in September, we're going to start to see all the properties recycling back into the market sometime in the spring, summer. Nothing this year. It's too early because they have way too many pending pre-foreclosures to go through the court system. So it's going to take several months before they recycle back into the market, okay? So what you need to do is have access to the inventory that you can buy directly from the bank, line up your funding, it's super important, and then have crews ready, build rapport with GCs, right? That they can come out and give you a scope of work on properties that you are targeting. That's going to be super critical, okay? Now, are there any questions so far on what we covered, auction.com? Any questions with auction.com? And Hubzu is exactly the same way. The only difference is that Hubzu does not promote in-person auctions, okay? So register, I'm already registered with auction.com, okay? So I don't need to register. Register, sign in. Okay, we have a couple of accounts. Let me log in. So I'll quickly show you exactly the same process. So I'm gonna go to, let's stick to West Chicago, okay? Okay, so there are a couple of them scheduled for August. Okay, now this is Elgin Melrose Park. So there's only one property right here in West Chicago. So again, offer approved, seller has approved offer terms and is proceeding with the sale. Okay, so this is no longer available. Place a backup offer. Listing price 189, cash only, no. So that means that in this case, they do accept financing on this property. So this property, I think it needs a lot of work on the outside, but the inside looks not bad. Okay, it doesn't look too bad. Okay, so at least it's not a good rehab, it's just a medium rehab. Yeah, so this looks not too bad. So this qualifies for a medium. So this is not a live rehab. You're gonna need to do kitchen, bathrooms, flooring, paint, light fixtures, perhaps some electric, and the outside. I think the siding needs some power wash. But anyway, so this requires a backup offer. So there's nothing in West Chicago right now available, but in a nutshell, it's exactly the same strategy, okay? Where you place a bid and they're gonna put a hold on your card. I mean, yes, just a hold for you to engage in the bidding war. Are there any
Hugo,
questions so far?
yeah, I do have a question, Hugo.
Go ahead.
So on what you just listed off, uh, redoing bathrooms, kitchen, flooring, and then the outside, what do you think that could amount to? 30 to 40?
Yeah, 30 to 40. So in fact,
Okay.
let me show you. We just came up with a framework. Let me log on to the cash flow. Yeah, let me go to, I believe it's deal analysis. No, hold on a second. Rehab right here. How to calculate. We just added a new framework. Are you part of the cash flow group? Members, today we're going to talk about how to calculate the cost of repairs for any house.
I
We're going
um I
to rehab.
honestly I don't know how we connected, but I started getting these emails, and I thought one day, let me see what Hugo has to say. So it's my first time on the call.
Oh, okay,
I
okay.
just
I'm
don't know
glad
how
you're
we
there.
got connected, but I'm glad that I stuck around and I didn't log out.
Very good. Okay, so let me show you what we came up with. So this is, so what we have is we have two groups. We have the cash flow and we have the wholesale. We have about 70, 80 people in each group. So the cash flow focuses on training to help you do rentals and flips. And we obviously reference ChicagoDealVault as a technology. And in here, we have a module. So what we have is about 10 modules. We show you A through Z blueprint on building a rental empire. So in this case, I went to the module for rehabbing. And in here, we have a property repair estimate sheet. We just came up with this not too long ago. This is fairly new. So let me show you, super, super simple. This is gonna make you look like a pro, okay? So you take the square footage, right? And you're gonna multiply these by, depending if it's light, average, or heavy. So if you're going to do update the kitchen and the bathroom, by default, it's gonna be average, okay? However, if heavy means that you're gonna be doing windows, siding, foundation, some structural work, rewiring, or a lot of rough electric, rough plumbing, landscaping. So when you're doing major work, you're gonna multiply the square footage times 40. But if you're gonna take just, I would say, updating the kitchen and the bathroom, so doing that from scratch or redoing it, it's medium or average. So you're gonna take the square footage times 30. That is why the previous property of 1,500 square feet, you're gonna spend about 45 to 55,000. You always need to add about a $10,000 cushion for unexpected items. So I would say rehab on a 1,500 square feet is gonna be anywhere between 45 to $55,000, okay? And then very few properties require a light estimate, okay? $20 per square feet. It's very, very rare to find properties that you're just gonna do cosmetic work, very rare. But this is just in a nutshell where we typically use this framework, okay? So you don't need to be, you don't need to have a construction background or anything. So we give you the tools for you to estimate rehabs.
Got it. Thank you very much.
No problem. So if you're interested in these, you can join the meeting. Send us an email to support@ChicagoDealVault.com, and then we can send you, we'll send you an invite to the next meeting, okay, for the cash flow or wholesale inner circle group meeting. You can also text the keyword success to 818-818. And we're gonna send you automatically information about the cash flow inner circle group and the wholesale inner circle group. It's pretty much a mastermind group that we meet once a week. Cash flow meets on Sundays 1 p.m. and wholesale on Tuesday at 6:30. So cash flow is Sunday 1 p.m. and wholesale is Tuesday 6, so tomorrow 6:30. Okay, and then we can send you a free invite to the meeting so that you can check it out. But it's really powerful. We do masterminds, deal reviews. We do live property tours. We're gonna have one next Sunday on a property that we just completed.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Great question. Are there any other questions on the line on auctions? Any other questions that we can address? So like this one, this property, right? The estimated opening bid, they don't know yet. Auction date is sometime in August, so this is in the future. Oh, but look at this. Auction address, this is a sheriff's auction, okay? In-person auction. So now, Hubzu.com, it's also sending people or investors to the in-person auctions or sheriff auctions. So as you can see, they're sending you the address for the auction. Okay, so these are the ones that you don't want to show up, okay, in person. You have to pay cash, and you're not going to get a special warranty deed, which is the most protective type of deed. You're going to get the least protective, which is the sales deed when you go through these in-person auctions, okay? So that's in a nutshell. If you want to have access to this inventory, So there's another question. What is the best source to check on liens? To check on liens, Dave, so we can check in Chicago DealVault if it's a pre-foreclosure. We can absolutely know the liens. Another way to know is by pulling a soft pull on the title. Okay, so we work with a couple of title companies like Fidelity and Chicago Title, and we can know what the liens are on the property. So for instance, right here, on any property, we'll be able to tell you if there are any other liens. So in this particular property, right here, there's no liens. I'm gonna show you one that does have perhaps some liens. Let me randomly click on another one in Lake in the Hills. So at the bottom, we have a section for liens right here. We have other liens. So in this particular case, one other lien for 47,000. So we're going to tell you the liens that are on the property if they're in pre-foreclosure, okay? So that you're aware of these, because guess what? When they're in pre-foreclosure, you're dealing directly with the owner. So you got to be aware of liens and encumbrances in regards to the property. Okay, so great question, Dave. So now
Hey,
if you
thanks,
want
Hugh.
to, no problem.
Just on that, if you don't mind. What would you say is the accuracy on that? Is it pretty accurate as far as the liens that are reported there?
Yes,
Or is it something we
absolutely.
should do more digging on?
No, no, they're very, very accurate. Very, very accurate. So you do have to worry about the liens if you're buying properties that are in pre-foreclosure or if you're going to the judicial auction in person, okay? You do have to worry about liens because you're going to be responsible for them. But if you're buying properties once the bank took possession of the property, they're bank-owned properties, then you don't have to worry about them. So that's the difference. If you're buying the property before the bank took over in the foreclosure process by foreclosing on the property, or after. So if it's before, guess what? You're not dealing with the bank, you're dealing with the owner, or you're going to the judicial auction in person, okay? That you do have to worry about the liens. That is why when the wholesale team gets a property on the contract, directly from the seller, guess what? We have to pull title. We do a soft pull on the title to know any legal liens, encumbrances on the title, because we want to know if we can successfully convey clear title to an end buyer. So we do pull title on it. And then that tells us the ownership chain, transaction history, mortgage history, any outstanding liens, like mechanic liens, villages liens, utility liens, tax liens. There's so many liens that could be on the property. So we'll know about them.
Got it. Okay, and that's the best way to do it if you're doing sheriff's auctions or something like that would be to have a title rep on your side to make sure that you're pulling title on them.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's no other way around that. Otherwise, you'll be shooting blindly. Absolutely.
Understood. Thank you.
No problem, Dave. Anybody else? Great questions. Any other questions?
Hugo, what is the cost of doing a soft pull?
$80.
All
$80.
right.
Oh, so yeah, we pay $80 and we can see everything about the property. So that is all the liens, all the outstanding encumbrances on the property, and then obviously the transaction history, ownership, chain, mortgage information, everything. So we pay
All right.
$80. Once we get a property in the contract from the seller, boom, we get all the information on the property.
All right. Thank you.
No problem, Sixten. Anybody else? So let's just quickly recap what we talked about today. If you are going to go to the in-person judicial auctions, you have to pull title on the property. Know your numbers because you're going to be bidding against other investors, groups that are taking over some neighborhoods. So they won't overpay for the property. So make sure that you know the numbers. But again, you're going to need to pay cash within 24 hours if you win the bid. And you won't get a sales deed until after 30, 45 days. Why? Because that's part of the redemption period. So the owner is given the last chance to come current with the outstanding debt before they lose their property. That is why you won't get possession of the property until after 30, 45 days. That's the in-person judicial auction. It's also called sheriff auction, trustees auction, in-person auction. Those are the most common names. And then the online auctions, those are for bank-owned properties. They've been foreclosed on by the bank, okay? And you are buying the property directly from the bank through these auctioning sites. So you're paying a buyer's premium, which is about 5% of the winning bid, to the auctioning site. Plus, you are getting a special warranty deed, which is huge, right? Because you don't need to worry about all these liens. They're already satisfied when you're buying the property from the bank or bank-owned property. That's the cool thing. We've been focusing on bank-owned properties because we can finance them. We know we're getting a special warranty deed, and oftentimes we can see the property from the inside. But again, make sure that the property is vacant. You cannot afford to buy occupied properties because it's too risky. You don't know when you're going to take possession of the property, and lenders are not going to fund the property that is occupied and you don't have access to. It's too risky. And even if you have the cash, you don't want to pay for a property that you won't take possession of when you close on it. And due to the pandemic, who knows when that's going to happen. One is soft pull. So what did you call it? Oh, it's a soft pull. Let me type it. Pull on the title. Exactly. Thank you, Joel. Another question, if there are two websites for auctions, do both make properties available in the Chicago area? Yeah, absolutely. However, you won't see a property listed in two auctioning sites. So the major auctioning sites are auction.com, hubzu.com, xom.com, XOME.com, Marshall and Williams, and Hudson and Marshall. Williams and Hudson and Marshall. Okay, so there are 5 major websites, but the most important ones are auction.com, xom.com, hubzu.com. Okay, so those are the main websites, and they all handle primarily bank-owned properties, but auction and hubzu.com now are sending traffic to the in-person auctions. Okay, another question, are sheriff's auction properties always unoccupied? No, that's the problem. Oftentimes they're vacant and some of them are occupied, so you need to check occupancy. That's where the biggest risk is. We found properties that are bank-owned properties that we could buy from the back door paying the reserve price, but guess what? They're occupied. So we try to go and make a cash for keys agreement with the tenant or whoever is occupying the property. If we're successful doing that, then we can buy the property. But if we're not, if we have an occupant that is not cooperating, we just have to skip it altogether. Even though the property doesn't need much work because it's too high of a risk. We don't know when we're going to take possession, and we don't know the condition they're going to leave the property in. A $20,000 rehab could turn into a gold rehab, right? They can pretty much dismantle everything in the property, so it's too risky. Are there any other questions? So yeah, make sure that you join either our next meeting is tomorrow for the wholesale, or if you want to learn more about building a rental empire, doing flips and fixing and rentals, join the cash flow. So let me send you the link via email. So it's the DealVault Academy. So this is the link. Check it out. And in here, we have 2 groups. We have the cash flow, and then we have the wholesale group. You can join both or one of them. Join our next meeting for free just to check it out. You'll be part of a team. You'll have a team lead, and it's a great opportunity to network with other like-minded investors like yourself. What is the cost to be able to deal to Chicago DealVault? Okay, so Joel, you can get it for free for 30 days. So free for 30 days. And after that is $140 per month, okay? So send us an email, Joel, to support at ChicagoDealVault, DealVault.com, and then we'll send you the link for the free trial, okay? And then you have unlimited training, so we can do one-on-one with you on the software. 30 days for free. We want to make sure that you know, you get the most out of it, that you feel comfortable with it. No, so we have ChicagoDealVault is for Illinois, okay? The entire Illinois, not only for Chicago, it's for Illinois. So it covers suburbs. We even cover some areas of Indiana. So it's the entire Chicagoland area. Oh, okay. Thank you for the info, Sixto. Are there any other questions on the line? Anybody else? So if no further questions, there's another. Oh, let me give you my phone number. So 773-368-4551. If you want to have a conversation, if you want to discuss anything related to what you're working on, anything that you're stuck, anything, any resources you may need, please give me a call, and then we can discuss. Could you please post the URL for the additional auction sites? Oh, okay. So you have Hubzu.com, then you have Zoom.com, you have Hudson. Let me pull it up from here. And the other one is Hudson and Marshall. Yeah, this is it, Hudson and Marshall. And then the other one is Williams and Williams. Williams and Williams. Okay, so this is the other auctioning site. So those are the main websites. I just put them on the chat. Aside from auction.com in that sequence, okay? Most of the properties are gonna be in auction and Hubzu and Zoom.com, okay? Those are the three that predominate. So I sent you guys my cell phone. Send me a text if you want to connect. Any questions, I'll be happy to discuss on a one-on-one call with you, okay? And then if you need a free trial, free meeting to the CASHFLOW or Wholesale, please send an email to support@ChicagoDealVault.com, okay? So thank you for joining, and I look forward to seeing you on our next meeting or speaking with you in person. If you have any questions, feel free to get in touch with me, okay? Send me a text and or call. So thank you everyone for joining. I hope you learned a lot, and then yeah, I can wait to help you be more successful. Okay.
Thank you, Hugo.
Thank you.